Alright, it's time for another update video. And after this one, I will be working on finalizing various guides, but today will largely focus on my progress and my thought processes. But quickly, before I get started, let me just quickly recap on some of the other things that have taken place since the last update video. I promise I will be super brief. So we successfully got past 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and did a stone pack giveaway. This was given away in a live stream where we played marbles to decide the winner, which people seem to enjoy. I had fun at least. And so our winner, FMD Thor, took away the stone pack. Secondly, we got the Discord server fleshed out and it now hosts 8 guilds and a great community. And it is continuously being improved. And third, I've started to do some occasional live streams. Right now, I've done most of my casual streams on Twitch, whereas when I'm active or talking or doing a tournament, I'll be either on YouTube or both. And now that the version 26 update has properly landed, I feel like I can finally move on to finalize some guides that I've had drafted up in the past. As I didn't want to release this before the update in case the update changed things completely and the guides would end up being inaccurate or irrelevant. Okay, I think that's all the major news. If you think I forgot something, let me know. And I'm also adding a new segment to the end of these progress update videos, which you'll see at the end of the video. Let me know what you think of that. But without further ado, let's jump into the workshop. And oh, this is gonna be quite a long video, but I'll try to be concise and to the point. So for the workshop, I'm still running Orb Devil farming, so my workshop reflects that. As mentioned before, I'm only going to transition to Orbless when I get Perma, Black Hole and Golden Tower together, which has meant waiting for the final Galaxy Compressor copy for ages to reach that, and which I still don't have. However, with the new update, there may be some other ways for me to reach this, which we'll cover later on when I get into Ultimate Weapons. And before getting deeper into the workshops, let me clarify one thing. In the past, it has not been worth it for me to respec my workshop for tournaments, as it hasn't really helped. First of all, in many tournaments before you reach Legend, it can actually be very beneficial to start your tournament as Devo, as it helps you stack up more enemies for Deathwave health bonus and extra cash at the start of your run. And early on, you will also not have that much coin into workshop enhancements or enemy level skips to shift around. And also, you have to consider the gem consumption used when respecing, as that can cost you 300 gems each time, which can be very impactful if you haven't maxed cards yet or need more modules. You could also try a light version of respecing where you just undevo your workshop for the tournament and respec back though. That would just cost you 150 gems. But overall, for many that are at an earlier stage than me, you may not see that much impact from respecing. But for me, and after chatting with JP978 Gaming about it, who's been an advocate for respecing for quite some time, as I'm now at 8 quadrillion lifetime coins, I realized that starting to shift over coins from utility workshops and utility enhancements for tournaments is starting to have some positive impact. In other words, by respecing, I can move all the coins I have in coin and cell enhancements and put these in damage enhancements instead. It's not much, but I'm starting to see a consistent improvement of about 20 waves or so for me at the moment. For some of you that may be considering doing a respec, you could perhaps try a normal tournament run first and see where you land and how tough your bracket is. And if you see you only need a few waves to get to a new rank, you could do it. And conversely, if you see you need 100 plus waves to get to the new rank, it's probably not going to be worth it to respec. And as a result of me starting to respec consistently, it also means that I can now begin investing harder into a specific farming build for the days when I don't do tournaments. So overall, that means I'm basically having 2 tower builds going forward, 1 farm build and 1 tourney build. Unfortunately, it will be quite tedious to do the manual respecing in between each time, but this will get easier and better with time, and there are some quality of life upgrades available with keys, but it will be a long time until I can reach those. But so yeah, I wanted to emphasize this respecing part so that some of my other upgrades and changes will make more sense to you as I go through the rest of the video. And the workshop you're looking at right now is my farm build, but I will put up a table so that you can roughly see the main differences for the tournament build. And these will continue to evolve as I get more comfortable with respecing often. For my health in farming, you will see that I've dropped this from 5,800 to 5,600 and to 5,000 for damage. That's because damage I don't really need for my current orb level farming with very low cooldowns, and my health I can easily upgrade in run. So this just gives some more room for more coin invested in utility enhancements. Once I get a better feel for the exact sweet spots, I may adjust things further. And it's a similar story with my wall. I've kept it at 1600 up until now, but I've just dropped it down to 1400 for my farming, as it's so easily maxed in farming runs. And even my wall rebuild to 200 instead of the level 300. But overall, beyond the respecking into 2 different builds, before that I was upgrading my enemy level skips to 400. And I will stop at 400 for a long time, as now it's getting crazy expensive for each single level. But for my farming build, as long as I'm running Orb Devo, I probably will settle with a lot lower enemy health level skips, as I don't need to worry about that for now. Once I go orbless strategies though, then I will need to make that a higher priority for my farming too. But that's just a quick tweak in the future when relevant. And in terms of enhancements, let me illustrate the difference between the 2 builds. And in theory, for some of these I could reduce them further or make some of them 0, and that's part of what future testing will decide. But for right now, the first few upgrades are generally very cheap anyways in enhancements, so that's why you'll still see a spread, but with a focus on enemy level skips for both builds and more health and regen, but then with a higher enemy level skips across both builds, and then harder into cash and coin and sell bonuses for my farming, and with more focus on damage for my tournament build. And so overall, now that I've reached level 400 in enemy level skips, it's too expensive to efficiently upgrade anymore, so that will be paused for some time. And for enemy level skips enhancements, they're also becoming expensive, but I may get another level up too. And part of this is because I don't have the stone income for any card masteries or anything else that is coin expensive at the moment. And beyond that is really just the coin plus and sales plus that I likely will put anything else into for the farm build, and some more damage enhancements for the tournament build. But we'll see, as I may tweak the 2 builds further based on more testing and experience. And then in terms of milestones, I've had a lot of progress, and part of this is because last week I was doing research and recording for a future video, and in it I respec my golden bot to amplify bot for some testing purposes. But I completely forgot that you can only respec the bot once per event. So then I was suddenly stuck with horrible farming for a few days, which meant it was time to focus on milestones instead. And so I've completed tier 13, gotten past wave 2500 on tier 14, new personal best on tier 15 and 16, and this overall gave a nice boost of gems and stones. And tier 13 turned out to be particularly difficult, as I don't have enough damage to make it viable with a glass cannon build with Galaxy Compressor and Dimension Core. When trying that in various forms, I just couldn't kill the rays and bosses quick enough before they would kill me around wave 3800 onwards. Then I tried with a more hybrid approach. I did this as I realized that by going for the region trade-off perk, I could basically tank the bosses with no problem whatsoever. And I could then also tank a ray. But the challenge was, if there were too many rays hitting simultaneously, then I would die. So I reached about wave 4100. Then, as rays were now the problem, I swapped that Galaxy Compressor with Pulsar Harvester, as that one is great against elites. And this made rays easier to handle, but then the problem became that I no longer would have permanent black hole, and this led to some shotgun that would ultimately kill me. So then it was time to combine all the learnings from the previous failed attempts, and that was to swap out Dimension Core with Multiverse Nexus, so that I could both have the Pulsar Harvester but also have permanent black hole by disabling Deathwave and Golden Tower later in the run. And this turned out to be the correct recipe for me to complete it. First I failed at wave 4453 using death penalty, then I failed at 4480, and then I finally got it with Astral Deliverance at the end. So yeah, some fun research and good progress for milestones, which meant a nice boost in stone income. But I would never recommend anyone being stuck for 5-6 days where you lose your golden bot. But this means I'll be able to teach you all more about bots, respecking bots and other stuff in the future. Now on to ultimate weapons. So in terms of ultimate weapons, I've focused wholeheartedly on Chronofield since the last update video. The focus first was to get uptime 100% by reducing the cooldown from 140 to 1 minute. Then I put some stones into duration, and have also labbed the duration non-stop from level 16 to 24. And then recently I've started putting stones into speed reduction. And with some of my stone earnings from milestone rewards, I also took my chain lightning up a little notch in terms of damage from 324x to 482x and 1 taken chance. As I said before, compared to most others I'm facing in Legends, my chain lightning is super weak, and there has been a need for a long time to upgrade it some. And I felt like this was also key to some of my additional milestone progress. And this also serves another purpose, and that is basically to free up a substat on the Dimension Core. With higher damage, I don't need or want the Chainlight damage substat anymore, and it has been more efficient to swap it for Spotlight damage bonus. And soon, once my Chronofield gets a little bit better, I will swap out the Chain Lightning quantity from it as well and put in the Chronofield speed reduction instead. And as for the future focus, I'm still committed to Chronofield for quite some more time, focusing on duration and speed reduction. In terms of stones, we'll see how much I put into duration, but I will continue to lab duration. But I do hope that I get the Galaxy Compressor to Ancestral. That will help with duration a lot. It's just so frustrating that efficient tournament and farming progress at the moment is contingent on getting one more Galaxy Compressor copy, which I waited on for ages now. So Chronofield remains the main focus and likely the only thing I will touch for quite some more time. But beyond that, it is worth pointing out that my black hole size of 54 meters is also very weak compared to most in Legend, and it is something I need to address at some point too. My Golden Tower bonus ain't great either, but I don't have the luxury of being able to use stones and econ right now. And at some point I'd like to consider a bunch of masteries, including Demon Mode, Wave Accelerator, Recovery Package Chance, the Damage Mastery and so on, but I don't have the stone income for this just yet. And because of the new update to the game, it has meant that you can now decrease the cooldown on Death Wave to all the way down to 50 seconds. And this has opened up another way for me to get permanent Golden Tower combined with permanent Black Hole for orbless strategies. My only problem is that one tick is not enough. In other words, I would need my Death Wave cooldown to 80 seconds, which is super expensive for me right now, 1940 stones, and therefore simply not worth it as I still struggle to establish myself within keys in Legend Tournament, which has to be my sole focus. And so, since I can't compete with others in terms of stone income and stone pack purchases, I just have to try to min-max as efficiently as possible instead, to hopefully keep progressing, but at least not regressing. And lastly, I'm also always gonna have the consideration of rushing towards Golden Tower Plus, but which costs tons of stones and which I'm not ready for at all just yet. I first need to try to climb the Legend Tournament ranks considerably first. And so here you can see all the ultimate weapon stats. Then for cards, well, my cards are maxed, and as I said before, I'm hoping to get more card slots soon, but that I hadn't been able to justify doing it when knowing that I'm missing just one Galaxy Compressor copy. And it has become even harder to justify getting card slots when we have the new banner and modules being introduced, which I feel like I ought to have backup gems for. So instead, right now I'm targeting getting card slots via the vault, but I'm recording this ahead of the new banner release, and if it turns out that it will be some module that I don't need at all, then I may finally pick up a card slot for gems. I've delayed getting card slot for so long in the hope of focusing on modules and getting the last Galaxy Compressor copy that I need, but doing that has clearly not paid off, so it's probably time to suck it up and get a card slot. And as for card masteries, I can't justify the stone usage for it just yet, but I have several cards on the long-term radar. Wave Accelerator for more efficient farming, but I'm not focused on farming right now. Demon Mode for the increased damage, but I probably won't get this until I'm further in the vault and can simultaneously get the vault upgrade that makes Demon Mode activate automatically, and when I've labbed the Demon Recharge lab. And then recovery packages for more module shards, which will be nice at some point, but I can't justify this just yet. And then more damage, and also potentially the free upgrade mastery. This is absolutely not something urgent, but I would love to explore strategies where I can lock in certain workshop stats, such as locking in my wall rebuild at 304 seconds instead of 300 and so on. For example, just to better and more consistently have the wall invincibility up for every second boss in tournaments and so on. For my perks, the farming perks haven't really changed at all, but since I don't have time to monitor my runs 24/7, I completely revamped these for my milestone runs, such as removing all econ perks and making sure defense, 50-50 trade-off, free upgrades, etc. were much earlier. And I'm not planning on any more bans or more auto perks for a long time. Though, once I transition from Orb Devil to Orbless, there may be some changes to my auto pick perk order to better cater to gradual damage increase and so on. And that the bans will look slightly different, where I would be banning knockback trade-off instead of the rage trade-off, because with a black hole that is permanent, and with my black hole being able to disable range enemies, I don't need to ban that anymore. Then for labs, luckily quite early on I caught up with all the lost progress from the cloud save issue that made me lose about 10 days of progress, which, if you think about it in an extra painful way, is the equivalent of 200 lab time days when you consider the 4x lab speed and 5 lab slots. Yikes. But okay, first let's just revisit what I said would be my goals in the previous update video. In it, while I mentioned some specific labs, it was largely going to be in the following broad strokes of the 5 lab slots. Perma-labbing Chronofield duration for a long time. Start perma-labbing Shadow Labs after first finishing Wall Rebuild, Invincibility and some more Shockwave size. 1 Econ Lab. 1 damage lab, and 1 flex slot, but largely focusing on tournament progression. And let's see how I did. So a lot of labs has focused on my tournament performance. Obviously, I've been increasing my chronofield duration, which is level 25 in a second. It's still 24. Then the chronofield damage reduction has gone from 0 to level 8, and my chronofield range has gone from 0 to 15. And the inner landmine blast radius, I just got 1 more level in it so far, and I will probably do a few more soon. Overall, the wall rebuild has been quite clutch already in many moments, but it has also had some very frustrating moments where it has crashed in the rebuild animation stage where it supposedly isn't invincible. I think that's just horrible game design that it will first be super weak for a fraction of a second when being rebuilt and then invincible for a certain amount of seconds and then normal. That just doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. And on that note, my wall invincibility has been maxed and is level 10 now, and my energy shield has also got max. And I had done quite a few levels in shockwave size before the cloud save loss, so I had to do those over again, and now I took it from level 8 to level 15. Then in terms of damage for tournaments, I've been increasing my damage from 40 to 47, my crit factor from 44 to 52, my shock chance from 14 to 16, my super crit multi from level 7 to 9, and I've also squeezed in 2 levels of Deathwave Amplifier and 2 levels of Deathwave Armor Stripping, and I've done 4 levels in attack speed from 70 to 74. And in terms of farming related labs, I've gotten the Golden Bot cooldown from 14 to 15, as I was able to swap out the Spotlight bonus substat on my Multiverse Nexus and get Golden Tower cooldown on it instead. It meant that I could drop my cooldowns a bit further, so I had to get the Golden Bot cooldown level 1 more and 1 upgrade in the event. And then as I wanted more steady coin progress in my farming, I leveled the Golden Bot duration a bit, and I also got the Deathwave coins to level 19 from 15, and I got my coins per kill from level 56 to 59. And then you may have noticed that I didn't level up Shadow Labs yet, and that's because I had originally created a very clever plan, I thought, but with the changes from the version 26 update to the game, it is no longer an efficient path, because now there are more new things to spend gems on. But let me just explain the original plan I had cooked up, as I thought it was quite interesting and with a very circular win-win approach. So, as you may have recognized if you've seen my previous update videos, I've been wanting Shadow Labs for a while, and I've been wanting another card slot for a while. But I haven't been wanting to use up a lab slot for that long duration for Shadow Labs. Then my rationale was to lab tournament focused labs instead of Shadow Lab, with the goal of this helping me earn the keys in tournament to unlock a card slot in the vault, and then instead use the gems that otherwise would have been spent on card slot to rush Shadow Lab. I felt like this was the perfect win-win approach. However, with the new modules and new banner in the game, this doesn't make sense anymore. And also the fact that I'm still missing a freaking Galaxy Compressor copy means it's hard to justify any gem spending outside of modules. So yeah, the original Shadow Lab strategy didn't work out, as now there are new things to spend gems on, and so instead I will soon lab the Shadow Lab normally, once I feel like I don't have any other important and efficient upgrades to do first. And then, as part of completing more milestones and just overall take less hits, I increased the Thorn level from level 12 to level 13. And as a reminder, there are some good infographics that give easy overview of this, and we have things like this added on our Discord. Or, with the latest versions of the effective paths sheet that I've shared in the past, they've also incorporated wall hits so that it is easy to see your current wall hits. And as part of doing more frequent respecs, it made sense to do a few more levels of utility discounts. Simply some quick levels that would result in me getting more coins back that I could then use to invest with. The other discount labs I don't think are worth it at all. The lab discount will become relevant for me in the future once I get started with card masteries though, but the attack and defense discounts I just consider objectively bad. And as I eventually want to max recovery package chance, but because it doesn't currently help me yet to reach a major threshold such as Perma, Golden Tower and Black Hole, I haven't bothered to max it yet, but right now as my chronofield also starts to depend on it, I may seek to max this very soon for greater chronofield consistency and uptime. So, considering all this, how did I do compared to my original lab goals? Well, I think I did okay. I permalabbed chronofield, had an econ lab for a fair bit of time, but not always. I was having 1 damage lab running non-stop, and then I was focusing heavily on other tournament related labs. The only failure from my previous goal setting was Shadow Labs as my priorities shifted. But overall, in terms of future focus ahead, it will be largely similar to what I said in the previous update video. My chronofield duration will continue to be labbed, I do soon want to start the Shadow Labs. I do want to do a tiny bit more econ. Again, as I mentioned in the previous video, part of this is psychological of wanting to see coin progress, but it's also just to continue to build the proper econ foundation for when I will start with masteries and expensive labs. And then I basically want 2 flex spots. One lab slot that is a bit more focused on damage probably, but I also want to find space for some levels in lab speed and attack speed. And then a second flex lab spot that is more specific towards tournament related labs such as recovery packages, finishing enemy health level skips, higher inner landmine radius, higher chronofield range, and so on. And attack speed and lab speed will be constant considerations, but it feels painful and inefficient to slot these in too often when they are getting so long, and I feel like there are a lot more impactful things to attend to first. I feel like I benefit from a lot more tournament related labs still, so there is room for growth in that area a bit more. And oh, I should add that I've been doing various testing and research for an upcoming video guide on tournament tips and tricks, and in that process I respec my golden bot into Amplify bot, and because I was suddenly stuck with the Amplify bot for a few days, I wanted to upgrade it a few quick levels to get more consistent use of it. While I cover this in more detail in the future, I will just clarify that you should not respec your bot unless your golden bot is basically maxed and have some decent cooldowns and duration labs for it. Otherwise, you're not going to get that much effect from doing it. And its uptime is low from the get-go. It is obviously also expensive to respec bot as it costs 300 gems per time, so this may be something you never want to do anyways, but more detail about this in the future. And in terms of tournaments, I'm starting to see some impact from chronofield, but it will really kick in soon. Basically, my waves have increased quite a lot, but I guess it also has for others as well, as my ranks haven't necessarily increased recently. And my wall rebuild, among others, is already starting to have some nice impact. I really need more card slots though, and there are still more room for growth through labs. But the sad reality is that it will more and more be solely down to stone spending in terms of meaningful progress for me. So I'm not expecting any magical rank increase in the near future. And so overall the progress is quite slow and steady, and I don't think it's long until I reach 400 plus waves in tournaments. I also followed JP978 Gaming's tip of trying to start a tournament last minute, which had led him to great tournament results in the past. So far I've only tried this once, but it didn't work out for me as I got an equally difficult or maybe even harder than normal bracket. And one thing you can do is look at the tower.lol to get a sense of what you would have ranked in other tournament brackets. And lastly, as mentioned, now that I basically have 2 separate builds going forward, my exact tournament build will be gradually tweaked and enhanced, which I'm excited about. And then for events, I've continued to put medals into golden bot bonus, and since I respec the bot, it meant that I could maximize the golden bot bonus and sacrifice a tiny bit of duration for now. For the previous event, the one annoying thing was that because of the cloud save issue, I wasn't able to finish the 13-day login and gem collection missions, which is the first time I've missed. Well, second, as I lost 400 plus medals from the event before that again, but in a way to catch up with what I felt is lost progress, and because of the new event relics, I purchased the event package. I don't have much to spend on this game, but I felt like I could make this smaller purchase justifiable. And overall, I didn't really have any issues with any missions. I do want to offer 2 quick pieces of advice about some missions though. Firstly, note that spotlight missiles actually count as smart missiles for the event mission. In other words, you don't need smart missiles to complete the kill X with smart missiles. Secondly, for the annoying Death Defy mission, I advise picking the highest tier you can run on and equipping your second wind, energy shield, and so on. And if you can also roll a Death Defy substat on whatever module you have spare. That just helps to complete the pesky mission, but just repeating this a few times in a difficult tier. And you can also unequip cards or other modules or things to make it easier for your run to die earlier. Once you get stronger and move towards glass cannon type of builds though, you'll start to death defy quite frequently, as you keep mostly taking hits by just bosses and then recharge energy shields and so forth in between them. But of course, not everyone is at that stage of the game, and so I can understand the frustration with this mission. And here you can see my golden bot in its full glory. And in terms of relic, there's not much to say beyond that I've gotten them all, but I did enjoy that we got attack speed relic. I thought that was nice. But then for this upcoming event, I'm not sure how I feel about the relic that decreases the wall rebuild time by 2 seconds. Personally, I would have loved to have mine at 304 seconds instead of 300 that I have it at, but making it 298 is not really beneficial to me and potentially detrimental, so I'm not sure how I feel about this one. Then for the guild, So if you're able to complete every chest every week with your guild, you will have more than enough guild tokens to get all the relevant stuff in the store, plus extra so that you can convert some of it into bits for the Guardian. As a result, I opted just first for whatever gave the most immediate impact to my tower. So for me, first with some coin bonuses, and then health and crit factor to help with tournament and milestones. And basically I'm gonna finish all of these before going deep into the Guardian related upgrades. I am gonna get the steel chip in case it becomes relevant later, but as for what Guardian chip I will focus on, I'm not too sure just yet, and I'm kinda awaiting more data to learn how each scales before I can make a proper decision. I'm probably checking out what chips will appear in the next guild event, because since there is no respec feature for the Guardian at this point, I will simply wait to upgrade any of them. They're also super weak early on, so it will not make any significant difference if I upgrade chips now or wait a bit later. And this is my current coin multiply bonus for tier 10. So for modules, the main thing is that I got my wormhole redirector as Ancestral again, 9 days after I originally got it due to the rough 10-day loss of progress. However, the two modules that I've been wanting the most for months still evade me, the Galaxy Compressor and the Dimension Core. And when the featured banner appeared though, it resulted in some contemplations that I shared in a previous video about having a gem buffer and about how deep to get into the new project funding module. I originally thought that I could gently dip into the featured banner to get 4 copies of it, just so I had a decent foundation of it for the future. However, to my horror, even though I poured a ton of gems into it, I only ended up with 1 copy. Instead, I got some more Death Penalty copies and Havoc Bringer copies and so on, which I didn't really need or want at this point. But it's okay that I didn't get more of the project funding module right now, as it will be a very long time until I would actually consider using it. And luckily they have at least made an update to the game so that if you have a module at 5-star, its chances to appear will be less in future module pulls. And so, although there is a long time until that will happen, it does give some silver lining of getting the new project funding later instead. And as mentioned in the previous video, the new feature banner means that I will always have a buffer of gems on my account. At first I was just thinking 2k gems, but I realized that I want to save up a lot more than that eventually. But I just want the final goddamn Galaxy Compressor first. And then in terms of module rerolling, as it doesn't matter what armor module I run with my Orb Devil AFK farming, finally getting Wormhole Redirector as Ancestral meant that I could use it for farming once I got its subsets sorted, so defense, health regen, wall health, and thorns. And that ate up all my reroll shards for a long time, and where my farms were suboptimal for a while until I got better substats. But it wasn't the end of the world, and probably after 1.5 weeks or so I had the main 3 substats I wanted on it, and recently also got the 4th substats of thorns. Luckily, my ACP rolls were a lot quicker and easier. For the 4th substat, it ended up with thorns, but we'll see what I ultimately want there later on. And I originally had Spotlight bonus on my Ancestral Multiverse Nexus because not that long ago my Multiverse Nexus was still outperforming my old legendary Dimension Core. But that is no longer the case, and so I was able to roll Golden Tower cooldown substat on it instead, as that makes me ready for Perma Black Hole Golden Tower once I get the Ancestral Galaxy Compressor. And it anyways enabled me to reduce the Golden Bot cooldown further. Thereafter for some milestone runs I tried to roll some substats for my newly acquired Ancestral Death Penalty and my Pulsar Harvester, as they both can have their uses there. And once I get my Death Penalty substats sorted stronger in the future, I plan to use it in some tournaments that has relevant battle conditions. And similarly, I would love to further improve my Space Displacer so that I can use it when relevant in tournaments as well. And in the near future I plan to remove Dimension Core substat of Chain Lightning Quantity with Chronofield Slow. But that's not a priority as my module is mythic, and I need to increase my Chronofield speed reduction with stones as well. But now I will try to save up a buffer of reroll shards again, just in anticipation of more important rerolls that I may need to do in the future, and also to gradually prepare for when I reach module level 141, which will take a lot of reroll shards. So to recap on future module plans, I plan to pray and start a religion dedicated to Galaxy Compressor to boost my chances of getting it. I plan to have a buffer of gems for future featured banner. I plan to save up reroll shards, and as modules are RNG, I'm not going to be too stuck on my original plans, and I will react depending on what I get and so forth. And here you can take a closer look at my substats. So as mentioned, in the future we'll change out the quantity for Chronofield Slow. And this is my ACP for tournaments. And the death penalty I used for Milestones. And my lovely project funding. And lastly, in terms of my gameplay, nothing has really changed and I continue to run my AFK Orb Devil. After the update and the fixes to enemy level skips, I've got my max wavelength up a few hundred waves from about 9,000 to 9,800, and this was largely due to the past issue of wave skips not triggering enemy level skips. My record runs have increased quite greatly from 73 trillion to 116 trillion, and my peak coins per minute from about 200 billion to over 300 billion. And I'm also expecting it to increase a fair bit now that I have a dedicated farm build. And my lifetime coins has gone from 5.4 quadrillion to 8 quadrillion. And here I lost a lot of progress as I was stuck with Amplify Bot for 5 days, where I basically earned no coin and would have earned at least 1 quadrillion. And combined with the cloud save issue from the past, it's quite painful for someone like myself who is obsessed with efficiency to have lost out on so much coin and progress. But overall, the farming hasn't really changed. I start a run, upgrade enemy attack level skips occasionally, eventually later in the run max health, wall health, and that's basically it. Chain lightning and spotlight missiles and inner line mines are all turned off. However, what I have realized that sounds a bit odd and wrong at first is that I've noticed that targeting elites at wave 7000 plus has boosted my econ a little bit. Not much, but a tiny bit. And this seems to just be largely about all the scatters possibly having negative impact on the max enemies on screen count. I also forgo a bit of cells by letting elites linger for a long while during my Orb Devil farm at high wave counts. But since I anyways usually can have 4x on all my labs, it hasn't been much of an issue for me. But there is some room for tweaks and improvements to squeeze out more cells. And just in anticipation of eventually moving from Orb Devil to Orbless, I was also doing various test runs a little while ago, such as using Galaxy Compressor instead of Singularity Harness. Right now, doing that results in 60% less coin gains in a farm run, and this is basically why I'm still not moving to Orbless until I have my Ancestral Galaxy Compressor. My tower is just not ready for it until then. But, that being said, now that I'm getting my Chronofield more online, I may consider doing this earlier, even if I don't get the final Galaxy Compressor copy. The reason for that is that my Orb Devil with Chronofield is not that great, as it slows down enemies who then get hit a lot more often by the orbs before the sync happens. I could of course turn off Chronofield for now, and maybe that's what I will do for a while. But at the same time, having a stronger Chronofield now means that juggling enemies will also be a lot easier. So I will continue to do some more testing to verify if it's worthwhile to move to Orbless already. And this is also because I'm now respecking my farm and tournament builds. And this means that I can start at a much lower damage in my workshop and gradually increase it in a run. And it is also because I have increased my wall thorns, which now kills a bit more than before. Though of course I could lower the thorns workshop stat for it. However, I don't want to end up in a situation where I have to micro an extreme amount, as I'm busy in real life and I don't have time to tweak things constantly in a farm run. So we'll see. Basically there is a chance that I will move to Orbless, but also a chance that I will stick with Orb Devil for a while longer. Time will tell after more testing, and once I do move to Orbless, I will create a relevant guide for that. But since you're anyways here listening, just a super quick recap of what the Orbless will kinda look like. I will be juggling enemies with bullets knockback and attack speed. I will not be using orbs anymore. I will focus on killing enemies in Spotlight, and I will gradually increase damage and introduce the chain lightning later on in the run and so forth. And ideally, I also have perma black hole and perma golden tower so that they are always up, and then I can move on to focus on dropping my cooldowns on my golden bot and so forth. And so yeah, that's it in terms of overall update. At the very end of this video though, I want to introduce a new segment. Basically, throughout the given week I get a lot of questions in YouTube comments, which I appreciate and try to answer as well as I can. However, I realized that not everybody are going to be reading through the YouTube comments, and so I figured that I may highlight some of the recent comments and questions just to better highlight and share those with you all. And one of those questions that I do get a fair often is, what should I spend medals on? And there is a nice graphic that I want to share in that regard. Basically, you do want to get all the skins and backgrounds, as these give you coin multiplier that stack up, and the same with the song that you also want to get. Then especially if you're starting out, you might want to get 2 or even 3 stone packs with medals. And then as you get stronger and are able to earn more stones in tournaments, you can reduce this to 1 or maybe even 0. And then you generally want to get the relics and any spare medals you can then put onto your golden bot. Your golden bot is going to be your one and only bot for a long time until you've basically maxed it. But yeah, do refer to this sheet as well, that gives you a bit more details on it. Should I really permalab attack speed and lab speed? And my answer to that is, do not be afraid to take out the attack speed and lab speed at times for more impactful labs. I think it's quite utter nonsense and lazy advice to tell someone to absolutely permalab those. Especially early on in the game, there are so many labs that will advance you faster. If I were you in the early game, I would especially focus on econ labs early on and upgrading your workshop stats. That by itself will take you to tier 8 and 9. And with the increased tiers and waves, you'll earn plenty of cells to later put back lab speed and attack speed or other labs in the future with a greater speed multiplier. Basically, just watch out for diminishing returns on everything you do, and never truly perma anything unless you absolutely want to, except for game speed at the very beginning. And then sometimes I get questions such as, what is LTC? And it's easy to take for granted after playing for months all the abbreviations we use in the game. So first of all, LTC refers to lifetime coins, but on Discord you'll see that I've written up a terminology list that includes abbreviation and other terms in the game, and that can be a good resource in the future if you're ever unsure of what something means, or some abbreviation that I may have used in my videos. And then I came across some old game ads for this game and they're quite hilarious, so I do want just to share that. Check this out.
This game is so much fun, I wish I found it sooner. So as always, I actually want to start going with some upgrades. You know, I got speed, attacks, strength. Finally reached tier 2 at wave 800 and things are actually so crazy. Even though everything's happening at once, it's actually so good.
Okay, that's all. See you in the next, and don't forget to like if you found this video helpful and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're still here, let me know in the comments if you have any ideas for future giveaways, as I do want to consider more of those in the future. And lastly, this time around we're not doing module pulls at the end of the video, as this is being recorded just before the new featured banner is released. So instead, I may be doing this on a later live stream or other way in the future. Okay, that's all. Thank you and bye.